Welcome to our latest video in the Adapting to Cultural Style series. In this particular video, we're going to be looking at two different cultural orientations, one towards accepting risk and one towards seeking certainty. These two orientations can have a big impact on how we make decisions, start projects, and manage change. I'd like to start us off with a quick case in order to set up our understanding of these two dimensions. Recently, I was invited to watch a senior management team of Europeans and Asians speaking together about how to work more effectively together. This particular group came from a European sports clothing company. They had recently been on a tour of some of their manufacturing partners in Dongguan and had a disagreement about the best style to look at some of the prototype clothing they were there to examine. One of the European colleagues coming from Germany had pointed out that when they went to look at one of the prototype jackets, a new garment that they were going to be producing, the Germans had spent relatively little time looking at the jacket before sitting down and making notes and making suggestions on the direction they were supposed to go, while their Chinese colleagues had spent more time in discussion and observing the jacket before sitting down and making suggestions. His point was he felt that the Chinese colleagues had been inefficient and maybe they weren't getting in with enough time to get things done for their suggestions. One of the Chinese colleagues pointed out that they had used roughly the same time to make the suggestions, but that they had spent more time looking at the whole garment, so they had been more considerate of the whole picture. So who was right? Whose working style was more correct? In this case, they both were. The European colleagues were expressing a tendency towards risk acceptance. They were willing to jump in quickly and make suggestions. They felt that this showed a sense of urgency and importance in the work they were doing. They felt this demonstrated engagement. Whereas the Chinese colleagues were expressing a sense of certainty orientation, wanting to make sure they had done their due diligence and collected all of the facts, seen the whole picture before making suggestions. This was their view on showing engagement at the workplace. So both sides have a lot of validity. If we've listened to that, we might think that we would want people like this of both sides on our own teams. So what are some ways we can balance this in a cross-cultural way? The first suggestion I have is understand how your team members view accountability and engagement. Your more risk-oriented colleagues will look at that sense of urgency and jumping in as a sign of engagement, whereas your certainty-oriented colleagues are going to be looking for whether or not there's been a complete picture and complete consideration of the facts, a sense of mastery before action has been taken. Consider your team members' sense of readiness to take action and speak out. Your risk-oriented colleagues will be more willing to speak out quickly and more willing to start an action without having done as much research, feeling that they can get a feel as they go. Whereas your certainty-based colleagues will want to spend that little bit of extra time doing the research before speaking out and before starting to make sure they're on the right path. And then finally, if you're managing people in a leadership role, consider how much information you need to give. Do you need a degree of precision and direct information for your certainty-based colleagues, or can you be a bit vague and open-ended for your risk-oriented colleagues? I'm sure you'll make the right decision, as you know people fall on a continuum from either side to either way. And as always, enjoy the challenge of working in your cross-cultural team.